What is up, everyone? Welcome to Rock Feed. Today, we are going to be taking a look at 5 bands that had great success with their first album, and then for one reason or another, didn't have that same success with their follow-up albums, if they even had one. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you get all of the latest Rock Feed news and more. First up on our list is Drowning Pool. Drowning Pool has released 6 albums, but none have seen the success that 2001's Sinner had. Sinner had 3 hit singles that helped propel this album to platinum status: Bodies, Sinner, and Tearing Away. However, a year after Sinner dropped, the band dealt with some major tragedy. Their lead singer, Dave Williams, passed away from heart failure while on tour in 2002. The band would then go on to hire Jason Gong Jones, who recorded 1 album with the band, Desensitized. Drowning Pool fans wanted this album to be just as good as Sinner, but without Dave, the same magic just wasn't there. Shortly after Desensitized was released, Jason left the band due to creative differences. Drowning Pool would then go on to hire Ryan McComb from Soil as their new lead singer. Ryan stayed with the band for a few years, releasing 2 albums, Full Circle and Drowning Pool, in 2007 and 2010. While their self-titled album did perform better than Desensitized and Full Circle, thanks to singles like Feel Like I Do, Turn So Cold, and Let the Sin Begin, it still didn't perform as well as Sinner did back in 2001. In 2011, Ryan left the band to rejoin his former band, Soil, which then brings us to their current lineup. After McComb left, the band hired Jason Marino, and they have dropped 2 more albums, Resistance in 2013 and Hallelujah in 2016, both of which have received more critical praise than previous attempts. Critics and fans really appreciated that the band has gone back to their heavier roots. It was reported in February of 2019 that the band was back in the studio working on a 7th album, but nothing has been released as of yet, and the band has had to halt their touring due to COVID-19. Next up on our list, we have Alien Ant Farm. So with Alien Ant Farm, it was their 2nd album, but their first commercially released album that brought them great success. Alien Ant Farm released their first album, Greatest Hits, in 1999 independently. This album caught the attention of Papa Roach, whom Alien Ant Farm then became friends with, and they signed with DreamWorks SKG. The signing brought us their top-selling album, Anthology, which is their only album to go platinum. They had great success thanks to hit singles like Movies and the Michael Jackson cover of Smooth Criminal. Due to the popularity of Smooth Criminal, it was added to the soundtracks of American Pie 2 and WWE's Tough Enough. Their success also gave them the opportunity to provide the song Bug Bites for the 2002 Spider-Man soundtrack. 2003 brought them back to the studio to record their 3rd album, Truant. This album released 2 singles, These Days and Glow, with the latter being the more successful. However, 2 months after the album's release, their record label DreamWorks SKG closed their doors. With the label now closed, there was no one to help market the record, and the band didn't get the support they needed to help make Truant as successful as Anthology was. The band then signed with Geffen Records, and in 2005, the band recorded their 3rd commercial album, which fans called Third Take. But Geffen ultimately shelved the album and didn't release it until over a year later, when in 2006, Geffen allowed it to be released under Universal Music. This album ended up officially being called Up in the Attic. Obviously, the lack of support and the shelving of the album didn't do the band any favors. The band still performed live shows over the next handful of years, but it wouldn't be until 2012 when they would then begin recording their new album, Always and Forever. In March of 2013, the band set up crowdfunding to help finance the album's release. Always and Forever finally dropped on February 24th, 2015. In 2016, the band announced they were writing material for a new record, but nothing has been released as of yet. That being said, the band is still together, and they were touring prior to the current pandemic. So, here's hoping we get that new album soon, and they get the proper push that they deserve. For our 3rd band on this list, we have one of my personal favorites from the early 2000s, Taproot. In the late 90s, Taproot recorded a demo and had sent it to Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit. Fred took a liking to the demo and tried to get the band signed to his imprint, Flip, on Interscope Records.
I just became the vice president of Interscope Records. I'm looking for bands, I'm signing bands.
Signed Taproot to a production deal, and 30 Seconds to Mars to a production deal.
What makes you successful, I think, is really being true and real about it. But you've got to have something to back it up. You really got to have that business sense.
Well, Taproot ended up getting a better offer from Atlantic Records with the assistance of System of a Down. So they opted to go with Atlantic, which really pissed Durst off. You can actually find the leaked voicemail recording online that he left on Steven Richards' voicemail. Kind of entertaining.
You don't ever bite the hand that feeds in this business, bro. You're learning right now exactly how to ruin your career before it gets started. All the luck, brother. F*** you.
Once signed to Atlantic Records, Taproot released Gift in 2000, which gave them 2 singles, Again and Again and I. However, in my humble opinion, that whole album is amazing from beginning to end. Considering they were an unknown band who had just pissed off Fred Durst, Gift did pretty well, selling over 250,000 copies. After touring with bands like Nonpoint and OTEP to support their first album, they went back to the studio to record their follow-up, Welcome. Welcome was released in 2002, and it is the band's best-selling album to date. Poem, which became their huge breakout hit, helped propel the album to number 17 on the Billboard 200. Welcome sold approximately double the amount that Gift did. They had what was supposed to be 2 other singles with Mine and Art, but only Mine was actually released. Art was all set to go, and then all of a sudden, Atlantic pulled the plug before it even came out. Some fans believe that Atlantic was trying to stifle Taproot's popularity. Well, later on, they released Blue Sky Research in 2005, which only sold a small fraction of the albums that Welcome and Gift did. Could this be due to the little to no support from Atlantic Records? Or is it due to the fact that this album presented a very different sound than what Taproot fans are used to? They wrote over 80 songs for this album, but the ones that made it got very mixed reviews, with the majority not liking the direction that the band went. Shortly after Blue Sky Research was released, Taproot and Atlantic had parted ways. In 2008, Taproot released Our Long Road Home through Velvet Hammer. It was a welcomed addition to their discography, and it peaked at number 65 on the Billboard 200. While it didn't achieve the same success as Welcome or Gift, it is still a great album. Then in 2010, after signing with Victory Records, Taproot released Plead the Fifths, and the years after, Taproot would continue to tour, playing Gift and Welcome in their entirety, depending on the tour. They announced in 2018 that they were working on their 7th studio album, but no updates have been provided. This brings us to our 4th band, the supergroup Them Crooked Vultures. Them Crooked Vultures features Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age on vocals and guitar, John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin on bass, and Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters and Nirvana on drums and backing vocals. The band released their self-titled debut in November of 2009. It debuted at number 12 on the Billboard 200, and they even won a Grammy for Best Hard Rock Performance with the single New Fang. Them Crooked Vultures then toured pretty extensively for the next 6 months, before going on what would become at least a 10-year hiatus. The hiatus has nothing to do with the band not getting along, record label woes, or any of the other things that you frequently hear about. They have all stated over the years that they do want to record a second album. It's just that Dave got really busy with the Foo Fighters, and then Josh got really busy with Queens of the Stone Age, and the timing for all 3 of them to get back together just hasn't worked out. Dave has said that this is the band he wants to be the drummer of forever. So, fingers crossed that we get that second album sometime in this next decade. Our final band for this installment. This band has the most tragic story of any band probably ever, and they only released the 1 album. The band I am referring to is none other than supergroup Damageplan. After Pantera was officially no more, the Abbott brothers, Vinny and Dime, wanted to form a new group. They recruited Patrick Lockman on vocals and Bob Zilla on bass. They then went on to release their only album, Newfound Power, on February 10th, 2004. Newfound Power debuted at number 38 on the Billboard 200, selling 44,676 copies in just the first week. The album also featured an impressive list of guest vocalists and guitarists, names like Corey Taylor, Zach Wilde, and Jerry Cantrell. This album would have 3 singles in Save Me, Breathing New Life, and Explode. The album would also be Dimebag's last studio album. During a Damageplan concert on December 8th, 2004 in Columbus, Ohio, Dimebag, as well as 3 others, were fatally shot by a mentally unstable gunman. Without Dime and the sheer pain of how it all ended, Damageplan could not go on. Vinny and Bob ended up with the new supergroup Hell Yeah, and Patrick went on to join the Mercy Clinic, a A couple of years later, when Vinny was asked by a fan if Damageplan would ever release a second album, Vinny said that right now, he just wants to focus on what he's currently doing. And maybe 10 years down the road, if the time was right, yeah, maybe they would do a follow-up album for the fans. However, that was never in the cards. A second album was never released, and Vinnie Paul passed away on June 22nd, 2018 from heart disease. Though we will never get a second Damageplan album, it has been said that there is unreleased recordings from the first album. Will we ever get to hear these lost recordings? Hard to say, probably not, but at least we have newfound power that we can go back and listen to again and again. What do you think of the 5 bands we covered? Did we discuss any of your favorites? What bands would you like to see in a future installment? Let us know in the comments below, and thank you for watching.